And start our January 14th, 2010 Planning Commission, and we'll start off with the flag salute. Jerry, would you like to?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, roll call.
Mr. Denayo?
Here.
Mr. Brentnall?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Crabb?
Here.
Mr. Gray?
Here.
Mr. Moss?
Here.
Mr. Sevison?
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Okay, the most exciting thing that's happened in my life all year. We get to vote on the new chairman, vice chair, and secretary, and the lineup looks like Jerry would be chair, and then Rich Johnson, vice chair, and then Harry Crabb gets to be secretary and take all the notes. Says he's got it covered. So if there's any discussion on that? I have a motion and a second. All in favor, just say aye. Aye. Okay, at this time, I would just love to turn the gavel over to Jerry.
Thank you. You did a great job. Great job. Okay, the next item is a report from our Planning Director. Michael?
I'm going to take a few minutes and update you on some of the activities occurring throughout the county. At the board's meeting last Tuesday, the 12th, Supervisor Montgomery requested that a portion of District 5 be added back into the PCCP boundaries. This was very positively received by the constituents within District 5, and the board voted unanimously to include a portion of District 5. Generally, it's as you take Highway 49 north and then to the west. That portion of District 5 is now back in the PCCP. And staff is preparing the final document, and we expect to submit it to the state and federal agencies within the next couple of weeks so that those agencies can start their review of our document. Your next Planning Commission meeting, we have a pretty full schedule set for you. There's the Atwood 80 final EIR and tentative subdivision map. There will be a subdivision modification for a reduced setback up in the Tahoe area. There's an extension of time permit for a ski lift up at North Star. And we have a zoning text amendment scheduled regarding medicinal marijuana dispensaries. And so that will all be on next agenda. Just to let you know, on February 9th, the board will be considering an appeal of your commission's denial of the general plan amendment and rezone for the Caldwell property up at Alpine Meadows. And there was also a third-party appeal filed for the St. Joseph Morello Church over in Granite Bay, and that appeal will be heard by the board on February 9th. Just to give you an idea, in this downtime, staff is spending a lot of time doing projects that we have put on the back burner for a while. And you're going to be seeing a lot of zoning text amendments coming before you in the next couple of months. There's one, and you probably read about this in the paper, more and more residents are wanting to keep hens and chickens on their property. And we don't really regulate this in residential areas, so there's a zoning text amendment being prepared regarding hen and fowl within residential areas. We also have a zoning text amendment to address solar panels and where they can be located on your property. We're addressing front yard situations. Currently, the zoning code requires any street frontage to be counted as a front yard. And as you know, the front yard has a larger setback than a side yard. Well, as we get into smaller lots, especially in western Placer County, to have two front yards can be very prohibitive to allow for a residential structure to be placed. And so, as with every city in this area, we're developing a side street, side yard standard to to be used instead of the second front yard. So that zoning text amendment will be coming before you. And then lastly, the ongoing implementation of our housing element, zoning text amendments related to transitional housing, waiver of fees for affordable housing projects, and we're working with TRPA on a MOU regarding second units up in the Tahoe Basin. So staff has quite a full plate right now, and we'll be bringing these items before you over the next couple of months. Any questions, comments?
I guess not. Lauren Clark gave us an excellent presentation on the PCCP at our last meeting, and it was well received.
Excellent.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody in the public that would like to address the commission today on a matter that's not on today's agenda? The things on today's agenda you get to speak on individually, but if there's something that's you would like to address us on that's not on the agenda, now's your opportunity. Seeing nobody, let's move on to the draft environmental impact report for Rancho del Oro. And you don't look like EJ.
Oh.
Paul Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Sitting in for EJ, who's out for a while, I'm going to be giving the presentation on this project. This is the Rancho del Oro draft EIR for the project, and today we'll be receiving comments on that document. We, however, will not be discussing the merits of the project. This will occur at a later date at a subsequent public hearing before the Planning Commission. As far as notices that were sent out for this meeting, notification of property owners within 300 feet of the project boundaries. A legal notice was published in the Sacramento Bee. Anyone who provided comment on the notice of preparation also received a notice, as well as various state and federal agencies, the county staff, public agencies, the Granite Bay Library, as well as the Granite Bay Municipal Advisory Council. As far as the location of this project, it is located north of Olive Ranch Road, approximately 1/4 mile east of Cabot Stallman, and along the northern boundary is Miners Ravine. This is a aerial of the project site. As you can see, it's largely made up of oak woodlands, grasslands, and as I stated earlier, Miners Ravine is along the northern boundary. Surrounding the property, you can see largely rural residential development. To the south, there's a little higher density single-family residential, and then off kind of to the southwest, this is the Bayside Church project. This slide shows the zoning of the subject property. It is zoned residential single-family, combining agricultural, combining a minimum lot size of 100,000 square feet, and that's 2.3 acre minimum. It also has a planned residential designation on it of 0.83 dwelling units per acre. Also on this slide, you can see some of the surrounding zoning around the project. Let me back up here. Here's to the west. This is 40,000 square foot minimum lot size. Here again is 40,000. RS has a 10,000 square foot minimum lot size where you have sewer and water. Here's 20,000 square feet. Here's approximately 40,000. That's about 1 acre. Here's a 2.3 acre minimum lot size area. And the boundaries, zoning boundaries, are these areas in blue, I should mention. Up in this corner here, and that's northeast corner is 4.6 acre minimum, and then to the north it's 2.3 acre minimum. This is a tentative map for the project. The proposal is to rezone approximately 120 acres from the existing zoning of 2.3 acre minimum to residential single-family with a minimum lot size of 42,000 square feet, again, about 1 acre. Also proposed are 9 common area open space lots. Those are largely along the north by Miners Ravine, as well as some open space lots that are in the property that protect wetlands and open space areas. A total number of lots is 89 single-family residential. Also included in the project description is access from 2 points along Olive Ranch Road, including a off-site emergency access response along Shadow Oaks Lane. There's also proposed along Olive Ranch Road, curb, gutter, sidewalk, as well as a 50-foot landscape area and a decorative privacy wall. Here's the tentative map itself, and with that, I would like to introduce Nick Papani. He is with Rainey and Planning and Management. He is the environmental consultant that Placer County hired in order to prepare the draft EIR, and he will be presenting some of the issues relating to the environmental draft EIR for you to consider later on. Nick?
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, members of the Commission. Nick Papani, Rainey Planning and Management, as Paul said, been retained to prepare the draft environmental impact report for the Rancho de Oro Estates project. And I'm just going to give a brief overview of the findings of the document. Just emphasize, too, before I just jump into that, is that we worked closely with staff, both environmental coordination, public works, engineering and surveying, and EJ as well from planning, as we prepared the draft EIR to ensure that all issues are adequately addressed, including comments submitted during the NOP period from the public and agencies as well. So I'm going to just kind of highlight the potentially significant impacts that were identified in the EIR that would result from implementation of the project. These impacts all could be reduced to a less than significant level ultimately with implementation of identified mitigation measures required in the document. With the exception of cumulative impacts to biological resources, which was determined to be significant and unavoidable, even with the implementation of the measures outlined in the draft EIR. So in terms of the potentially significant impacts, first, just following the order of the chapters in the document, is biological resources, specifically potential impacts to special status plants, freshwater invertebrates, fairy shrimp, tadpole shrimp, velb or valley elderberry longhorn beetle as a result of elderberry bushes being located on site, burrowing owl, oak woodlands, and jurisdictional waters of the U.S. And again, mitigation measures have been required to reduce those impacts to a less than significant level. And certainly if you have any questions on specific mitigation measures, I can get into that detail. The cultural resources is the next chapter. The draft identified potential impacts to 3 different sites that may be eligible for listing. The EIR includes mitigation measures to first aim at avoidance, and if avoidance is not feasible, that data recovery plans would be prepared by a professional archaeologist and put on file at the local and state databases. And then the potential to unearth unidentified resources at this time, and measures in place to ensure that if anything is found, that work would be halted and appropriate archaeologists would be contacted to determine the necessary course of action. A potential impact to new sources of light and glare has been identified in the visual resources chapter, and mitigation for lighting plan to ensure that minimization occurs through shielding and so forth. Transportation and circulation, potential impacts to or resulting from construction traffic, Potential impacts to bike and pedestrian, and although the project does include a sidewalk along Olive Ranch and also bike lane on Olive Ranch, this is just to ensure that the final design is consistent with county standards. I'd point out that no intersection impacts were identified for the project level conditions, including one of the scenarios that looked at not just the Plus project, but also adding the proposed Bayside Church expansion, and also the Granite Bay, Grove at Granite Bay project. The traffic analysis also looked at a modified site access, which would actually relocate the access to a little further to the east, in line with Ramsgate. That's not the proposal for the project. As you can see, it's been relocated to further to the west in response to the community members' concerns of cut-through traffic. So the document found that actually with the proposal or with the actual access relocated further to the east, still no significant impacts would occur as a result of traffic. But again, it has been relocated further west to address concerns. Cut-through traffic was also looked at specifically since it was a very big concern of the neighbors. And the consultant did travel time runs to determine how long it would take from different routes, and they determined that the routes would actually be shorter. For example, taking Sierra College to Cabot-Stallman to the site, or Barton at Olive Ranch to the site, rather than cutting through Sino or Kingsgate, to Douglas. So again, no significant impacts there. Just wanted to kind of clarify those pieces. Air quality, potential impacts from fugitive dust, temporary construction-related increases in nitrous oxides, and so mitigation measures have been incorporated to ensure that those impacts are reduced to less than significant. Noise, construction noise, short-term impacts, and geology and soils, potential impacts from liquefaction and expansive soils. And so the detailed measures, standard county measures, have been included to ensure that the final designs of the foundations and so forth are consistent with building code requirements to minimize impacts. Hydrology and water quality, construction impacts to surface water quality, operational water quality impacts. So best management practices have been included to ensure that ultimately the water quality would be acceptable. And again, county standard mitigation measures have been incorporated to ensure that the design of the system is ultimately their satisfaction. Public services, just a couple more sections here. Water supply and delivery, a standard mitigation measure just for a final water availability letter. A preliminary letter has already been received that says they have adequate water, the district, San Juan district. And wastewater, potentially significant impact, a requirement to submit design level reports that will finalize the design and allow the county to ensure that all requirements are being met for the system design. And then in the cumulative impacts category, other than the biological resources that I already mentioned, there'd be intersection impacts to Douglas Boulevard and Cabot-Stallman, and Douglas and Barton. Mitigation measures have been included, such as pay fair share towards identified improvements is incorporated to ensure that impacts are less than significant. A regional air quality mitigation measure, slightly over the reactive organic gases standard for cumulative air quality, but the district has a standard offset fee that has been identified. The applicant will pay that, reduce impacts. And then utilities for sewer, potentially significant impact, and mitigation has been incorporated so that the applicant pays a fair share fee towards a standard, it's actually a standard fee that goes towards further enhancing some of the downstream pipe constraints that have been identified at the point of build out of the area, not just the project. And with that presents the potentially significant impacts, again, all of which can be mitigated successfully as determined in the draft. Many of the mitigation measures I did cover, and with the exception of the significant unavoidable impact to biological resources. So with that, that concludes my overview. If you have any questions at this time, otherwise I'll turn it back to Paul to open it up for
Okay,
comment.
Nick, any questions? Apparently not. You did such a great job. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Paul, do you have anything else to add, or? A few other things. Okay. Your microphone isn't working.
5 p.m. on January 21st. So that is the deadline in which you are to be allowed to submit comments on the draft EIR. Any person that provides comments here today, as well as written comments by the 21st, they will be responded to in the final EIR. Now, the final EIR, as well as the project entitlements, will be considered at a future Planning Commission date to be scheduled later. And then the Board of Supervisors will consider the rezoning that is associated with this project. So the Planning Commission will be giving a recommendation to the board on the rezoning. It's worth mentioning at this point that this project is consistent with the Granite Bay Community Plan, so therefore there is not a community plan amendment associated with this project. Here is just a little information about where to submit your comments in writing by January 21st. Maywan Kroc, Environmental Coordination Services, 3091 County Center Drive, Suite 190, Auburn 95603. And then there's an email address there that you can email your comments as well. If you need information about that, I can provide that to you at the end of the meeting. So with that, the staff concludes their presentation and request that would recommend that the chairman open up the hearing to the public to provide comments, and Nick and myself are available to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Ladies and gentlemen, today's hearing will do no more than take in comments. There will be no decision made, no discussion per se. It's just your opportunity to present your concerns or comments on the project to the commission, and as Paul said, they will be responded to formally in the EIR. Folks, there's chairs over on the left. You don't have to stand. So how many people here want to make a comment on this item? A few. Okay, if you would, sir, come on up. State your name. Paul, do you have a log next to the podium?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there is a log that is next to the podium there. If you could please sign in and with all the information, that way we can make sure and give you a
make
copy
sure you
of
get a
the
response.
After?
Yeah, afterwards. We'd like to
Okay.
hear what you have to say first.
Thank you. I'm Richard Langowski, and I live directly across the street from the property on Windham Hill Drive. I have a very short pitch here, but what I really want to know is the area between the Olive Ranch Road and the fence on the subject's property protected by an easement.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, but we'll get an answer for you.
Okay. And the reason I ask that question is because on that easement, there is a school bus stop at the southwest corner of the property. And we don't know what's going to happen to the school bus shelter if they're going to tear it down, because if there's no easement, they can probably do that, okay? But if there is an easement, it'd be nice to know whether that we're still going to have a sheltered bus stop. There are several bus stops on Olive Ranch Road that is juxtaposition with the property in question. However, the stop mentioned above is the only stop that has a shelter. It was built by, I guess, the local people. The school bus stop supports many schools in the immediate area with pickups in the morning and the afternoon. My question is, what are owners' plan to support the school children with bus stops? I'm sure they're going to have a lot of children in their area, so you need some kind of shelter protect them from wind and rains, et cetera. Okay?
Good
Thank you.
question. Thanks for bringing it up. If you would, sign in so we make sure that we get you a formal response to that question. Next person, come on up, give us your name. And
Hello, I'm Jane Negri, and I live at 4502 Olive Ranch Road. And I have many comments, but I'm going to try and summarize them. I did have a difficult time reading the DEIR, as the disc that came in the mail, well, I could not get it to work. I viewed it on the internet, but I wanted to compare proposals, so that was difficult. And also the timeline was difficult coming during the Christmas holidays.
Jane, if you have written comments, when you get done saying what you want, you can also submit those.
Yes, I'm going to do that. Thank you so much. One part I need clarified, there are two charts in the document that I couldn't read. I couldn't read the key or the notes on either figures 5.3 or 5.4. They're on pages 539 and 540. And I even tried with a magnifying glass, and these are the charts on the significant oak trees. I do live directly across from the proposed project, and I am asking you to retain the current zoning with a 2.3 acre minimum. This would protect the unique natural features of the property, and I have not read one letter from our community or talked to one person who lives on Olive Ranch Road that feels this increased density would be a benefit to our neighborhood. There are currently about 180 large homes for sale in Granite Bay. With this much housing available, I do not see any justification for rezoning the property and adding an additional 49 homes to the market. And the light and glare has already been mentioned, the fact that that would be significant. That could be greatly reduced by just building the 40 homes instead of the 89. And I'm also going to submit some pictures that go with figures 7.2 to 7.5 on the southern border of the site. The pictures included in the report are not representative of the homes to the south, and so I'll turn those in. In the area of the biological resources, it has been stated that the implementation would result in a cumulative loss of biological resources to Placer County and the effects of ongoing urbanization in the region. And this would be significant and unavoidable. These statements just made me realize how important it is to retain the current zoning on the property. Why would we want to add the additional 49 homes and lose this natural resource? I have spoke about this before, but I wanted to mention the hawks that nest on the property. They fly over our neighborhood and they hunt in my backyard. And I have pictures of them. According to their coloring and markings, I believe they're Swenson's hawks, but I'm not sure. The one thing I do know is they have returned to this property to nest and raise their young for 34 years. The tall oaks and pines that are being threatened are their homes. The mitigation measures only allow for protection at the time of nesting. And then the next year, when the hawks return to nest again, those trees will be gone and they're going to be replaced with 24-inch box trees. What will the hawks do? They'll leave and we'll lose that natural resource. The same is true for the mitigation proposed for the burrowing owls. It's really only a temporary mitigation, and eventually they're going to be relocated. It sounded like the elderberry shrubs and the longhorn beetles were safe, but then there was a statement in there that said, should avoidance of one or more of the elderberry shrubs be infeasible, the applicant shall consult with the USFWS to determine if authorization is needed to remove the elderberry shrubs. So it seems that even the beetle with federal threatened status can be moved. The oak woodlands are also a major concern. I won't read all of this because I know there are other people that need to comment. I'm just want to make it clear that if we maintain the current zoning, we wouldn't lose the thousands of oak trees that will be cut down, and even 69 significant trees are threatened. I do not have time to mention in detail all the other parts of the proposal that will impact our quality of life. Traffic, noise, and air quality are mitigated once again by paying fees, but that will not take away the approximately 934 daily new trips, adding congestion and pollutants to our rural road. This is a significant impact on our neighborhood. There will be an increase in peak stormwater runoff and flooding related to the project. It'll directly impact the prehistoric sites and the Native American artifacts. The grading will eliminate the natural rolling hills and depressions of the area. And the loss of the agricultural designation is another aspect that is in opposition to the goals of the Granite Bay Master Plan. And it should be protected by maintaining the current base zoning. In conclusion, I'd like to ask you to carefully consider how this proposal will benefit our area versus how it will destroy irreplaceable natural resources and the quality of life for the community, people, plants in Granite Bay and Placer County. I would encourage you to drive down Olive Ranch Road and view the surrounding land and area for yourselves before making any decisions. The mitigation measures for the proposals may meet the legal requirements for development, but they do not meet the moral obligation to safeguard this last large piece of natural habitat in the Granite Bay area. So I would ask you to deny the rezone on the property.
Thank you, Jane. If you would, please sign in there, and then if you want to give your comments to Kathy, of course, you understand we're not making any decisions today. Right. Come on up, ma'am, or sir, or whichever's next. State your name and say what you have to say.
Good morning. I'm Sue Gollum. My husband is Frank Gollum. We live at 4762 Olive Ranch Road, directly across from the property. And we've lived there since 1985. We suffered through the last 20-year plan and felt that Mr. Sakopoulos got more than his fair shake when he was allowed to rezone from 20-acre agricultural to the current zoning for his property. We are totally against the current push to rezone, which will be followed by the mowing down of as many trees as they dare, with the promise to plant 3 trees for every one removed, and pack the property with double the houses allowed in the current zoning. The street was named Olive Ranch for a reason: olive trees and ranches. The surrounding properties on the Rancho del Oro side of the street are also zoned agricultural to allow for horses if the residents want. Mr. Sakopoulos agreed with that distinct zoning for the past 20 years. What has changed on the street since then? Nothing. We are opposed to any type of sound wall. The entire length of Olive Ranch Road is rural in nature. As we read the last paragraph on page 7-1, Frank and I were puzzled. It reads, "Views in the area vary from those of low-spreading residence, partially concealed by dense vegetation, to views of residential areas characterized by sound walls and large residences." In reality, there's only one sound wall on Olive Ranch Road, and it is set back from the road and concealed by the mature olive trees that were on the property when it was constructed and left in place at the time of development. Policy 8 of the GBMP states, where possible, preserve the native trees and support the use of native drought-tolerant plant material. We question the conclusion reached in 7.2 that states the location of the privacy wall would be consistent with the GBMP policies pertaining to country roadways, resulting in a less than significant impact. Both this PCGP and the GBMP suggest using vegetation for screening, not sound walls. We could live with and support this alternative. Frank and I currently experience car fumes and cars and trucks that slow to a stop one house away. Then we experience more exhaust fumes as the cars take off down Olive Ranch. It is not enjoyable, and it's difficult to have the windows open in the summer. Under the current Rancho del Oro proposal, the development of 89 lots would mean a considerable number of vehicles and delivery vehicles exiting and entering. Adding gates and stop sign will slow the process down and allow for additional air pollution to be absorbed by residents, pets, wildlife, and vegetation. We are not against progress, and we realize every owner has the right to develop the land they own. We'd like to say.
Thank you, Sue. Frank, do you want to add something?
No, no, sir, I'm.
You're
here
just
for
moral support.
Moral support.
You're doing your job well. Sue, if you would, one of you sign the note so that you get a specific response, and
Can we
if you
submit
have to
this
give your
right now?
comments, you can give them to Kathy. Is there anybody else who wants to speak? If so, come on up. Looks like it's you.
Hi, my name is Annie Russell. I live near the bus stop, but not right by the bus stop, on Olive Ranch Road, probably about, on the same side the property's going to be about maybe 5 houses down. And I noticed that they wanted to rezone from 40 to about 89, and I have 4, young children, not tiny anymore, but they're between the ages of 8 and 12 years old. My children have gone to Green Hills, which makes it necessary for me to bring them up Olive Ranch Road to bring them around to Green Hills School. There's no other way to get there. We have walked to Green Hills several times when we dare because of the traffic going by at high speeds. The road is a 35-mile-per-hour road, but lots of people, I guess they don't know how to read because they don't obey the speed limit on that road. So my concern is with all these additional people, the speeding, and my children. We almost don't even clean up the gutter in front of our house, the little thing where the water goes down, because the people speed by so fast. I'm just scared my children are going to get squashed. There's noise related to the traffic. We've got school buses going up and down the road, and they go by pretty fast too. If they are obeying the speed limit, it doesn't seem like it. I think they go faster. But anyways, the fire truck goes up and down the road too. They pass our house. So there is noise from traffic. There are also people walking up and down the road. My mailbox has been vandalized. I've had my mail stolen. I'm concerned that with increased number of housing, number of people, that we will get increased people looking into my mailbox. I also continually clean up litter from the front of my house, from my little rain gutter. What is that called? A trench? It's the trench in front of my house. I'm 100% sure that increased people will mean increased McDonald's cups and whatever else that I collect through my front yard. I also, though, am worried about the drainage. I have a seasonal creek in the back of my yard at the very end of my property, which when they built the homes on the end of Cabot-Stallman there, they blocked up the drainage, and it backs up all the way to my house, even though I'm about 3 houses from Cabot-Stallman there. So that drainage comes from the other side, which I'm assuming is somewhere on that property in there. I've never been in there to see it personally myself, but I'm concerned because I know there's a lot of water there. I know that every year it floods. They've had times where it's flooded right away, all the way across Olive Ranch Road. It's flooded all the way down that creek. It's flooded down into the Green Hills field. Last year it was submerged. There were ducks swimming in the field at Green Hills. And where are they going to make all this water go? Because obviously if they built houses there, people don't want the water to be flooding into their houses. And so are they going to pump it out into my backyard? I don't want it in my backyard. I already have trouble getting it out of my backyard and past the houses that they already built, stopping it up. So I'm just wondering where all that water is going to go. I don't know if the people who observed the property observed it at that time of year where there was so much water. And I don't know if they realized that there's a problem with water. There's also underground water. My house has an underground spring that goes through underneath. So, yeah, water's a question. And I had the same question, I guess, as the woman who mentioned, with so many housing situations available already, why are we, I don't understand why we're trying to rezone and get more. Across Sierra College, which is visible from my yard, there is a flattened out hill with other flat parts on it that was supposed to be for new construction, and the construction hasn't ever come, but the hills have been raised flat, and the trees are all gone, and it's just flat there, sitting there, and it's been sitting there for ever since I moved here. And why are we going to have another flat spot with nothing? Or what's going to happen? Are they going to build these houses, or is it going to wait like this other place is waiting? I don't know why it's waiting, but it's just flat. It's been raised flat, and there's nothing there. So I guess those are my concerns, and that's it.
Okay, great. If you would,
Sign the paper.
sign in so we can send you an answer directly. Anybody else want to speak on this matter? If so, just... No, not yet. You're one project too early.
My name is Madeline Kalani, and I'm here talking about the Rancho del Oro regarding the Granite Bay Community Association. Did each of you receive one of these?
We received your comments. That,
Okay, good.
Madeline, are
I'll
now
also
part of
give
the
it to
record.
her.
Yeah. So those are part of the record already. Yeah.
All right, thank you. I live at 7495 Red Bed Road in Granite Bay, and I've lived there for 41 years. And the Granite Bay Community Association was very active in developing the community plan, and Sakopoulos received his zoning. And a concern we have also is a domino effect. If you allow the zoning to be increased on the Sakopoulos property, what is going to affect the Tanner property when they come? They received greater zoning in 1989, and they're across the creek from, or I should say, Miners Ravine. So if this lady's concerned about zoning, about drainage, what is going to happen there? So they can say, well, you allowed the Sakopoulos property to grow, why not us? They really aren't a PD. I don't see anything they're doing in the well-being of the community, but they want the density of a PD, which is interesting. Also, the lots back onto Miners Ravine, and what might be more attractive, except for the fact that there's a fence and also gates, if the community could come in and there was a street back there instead of homes backing onto the creek, Miners Ravine, the community could come in and then have the ravine there to walk down, maybe to fish or whatever it may be. Another thing is keeping animals. That was already addressed, but others do it beside them. There's lots beside them, all around them, to the east and to the west, where animals are acceptable. And if that is eliminated, that would be sad for the area, because that's being eliminated left and right, it appears, as requests are being made. I walk in an area over by the lake, and I walk through Lake Ridge, Folsom Terrace, hidden lakes, and there's no lakes, there's no gates, and it makes it nice for me, because then I can take a long walk down to the lake or walk in the area and really exercise my dog and myself. And when you add gates and you add these fences, it does exclude the community. And I know there's an area down further down toward Berg that is being questioned because they keep locking the walk-through gate. I mean, if someone's going to steal something, I don't think the person walking through trying to get over to Gibson, whatever, is going to do that. So there's been issues with gates. And also they've spoken to the fact that there'll be increased taxes, and that will help the tax base for the community, but also with increased taxes comes the need for increased services. So you take from one and then you give it to another. So there'll be more need for police and fire, and also the roads, and it could affect the air quality and also the water in the area, which has also been addressed. So those are some of the issues that were presented from the Granite Bay Community Association, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Be sure and sign in there.
I will.
Although you submitted written comments, so we have your address. Okay, is there anybody else who wants to speak about the draft EIR? Come on up.
Thank you. My name is Jay Doyle, and I live on Ashby Lane, which is off of Shadow Oaks Lane, north of this development. My concern was with the emergency access that was mentioned before. At one time, the residents of Ashby Lane had access through South Shadow Oaks to Olive Ranch. Currently, we go on Shadow Oaks out to Cabot-Stallman. And I saw on here that there's going to be a gate or a proposed gate. And my concern was that the residents of Ashby Lane have an access through there as well, because there have been floods in past years. In the past 10 years, I think there's been 2 floods. 2 years ago, there was a flood around Christmas time, New Year, during which for 2 days we couldn't exit from our road. We could not get out. And so, you know, if there's a medical emergency, for example, there wouldn't be a way to get in and out. So it's like health and safety for us there. So I just wanted to make sure that we have access, the residents of Ashby, and also the people on the other side of the bridge, which is on Shadow Oaks Lane.
You raise a good point. We'll see if we can get you an answer when they respond. If you would, put your name and address on the sheet to your right so that we can make sure we get it to you directly.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this matter? Seeing nobody? Okay, I'll close off the public input. Paul, do you have anything else before we close this particular matter? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your comments. The final hearing on this will be somewhat later. I don't know when, but hopefully your comments will play a significant role. With that, the next item is Hidden Falls Regional Park.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's what we need to.
Okay, those who have left seats. For those who were standing, and it looks like everybody has a seat. Paul, what are we going to do here?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This next item, the 1035 item, is a conditional use permit for Hidden Falls Regional Park. This item, we've had a circumstance come up in that the final EIR that was produced for this, the electronic copy of the final EIR had some information missing out of it. And therefore, based on that information missing, the staff is recommending that we continue this item in order to allow that information to be available to the public for the required time that's required by CEQA, and that's 10 calendar days. We would request that this be continued to a date and time specific, and that would be the next hearing, January 28th at 11 o'clock, in order to allow people to review the information that is now in the final EIR. And it looks like there is a number of people that are available that have come to this hearing, and we certainly apologize for what's happened, but we think this is the best thing that we need to do in order for everybody to have be able to review this information that's out there. I would suggest that if it's at the Planning Commission's direction, to maybe allow people that would like to comment at this time.
Yeah, I was going to say that if I came to speak on this matter and that it was being continued for some technical matter, nobody's disagreeing with that conclusion. I would be, the word I have is something a little stronger, but annoyed comes to mind. So, Scott, unless there's some reason legally that we can't do it, my preference would be to open up the hearing and at least hear what they have to say. We're all here.
Jerry, there's no reason that the commission cannot receive comment at this time. It's just the public hearing wouldn't be closed until after the proper notice was given and all parties had the availability to comment on the complete document.
All right, that I understand.
I would recommend, though, instead of having staff respond to the comments here today, wait until you hold your hearing on the entitlement and you take the actual action to have all the responses to the comments that are made so that they can get them all together in one hearing.
Okay.
And we will make sure and take notes on that and prepare responses for the upcoming meeting.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to do as chairman is go ahead and open up the public portion of the hearing so that you can make your comments. How many people wanted to speak on the hidden trails? Well, not too many. This way, if you can't come back, it would be more effective if you were at the hearing on the 28th of January at 11. But it's your call. Some people can't come back. It's difficult to get off work sometimes to come here. We understand that. We have the same problems. So I'm going to give you the option, if you would like, to present what you have to say now. It'll become part of the hearing record. We won't discuss it. We'll just take it in like a big sponge and consider it later when we actually do hear this matter. But if you would like to present your comments to the Planning Commission now, please feel free to do so. Okay, sir, just come right on. Hold on a minute. He was faster on the hand up than you. You can come next. If you would, please state your name.
Hello, my name is Daniel Small, and I work and live on MC Ranch, which is at the end of Hubbard Road. It's called MC Ranch Road. And we live on 100 acres. I don't know if I said I live there and I'm employed by Bruce and Kay McCreary. They asked me to come here and state what we're dealing with. You know, we've never had very few horse trailers coming down our road. It's a difficult road. And when they do, they get stuck. And then they tell us their GPS said it was this way to the park. And the park is probably 100 feet across the creek at the lower end of our property. Okay? Sure, you could walk across the creek, but you could never drive over there. And that's been a problem, because they get their horse trailers in our driveway, and then we have to help them out. Another thing is, my employees had told me that, plus I'm down there, there's 2 trails that look down upon us. And for 50 years, as long as they've been there, there's never been any invasion of their privacy, but now there is, and they were asking if this is going to be this way, if some kind of screening could be put up and such, that people aren't looking down upon us. And we feel that it's just a matter of time before people keep looking down to decide that they're going to go check it out, you see. And so, like I said, I'm not too familiar with how this all works. I'm just here representing the McCrearys, the owners of the land, and they're really upset, I guess you could say, about the lack of their privacy and then strange horse trailers coming down and getting stuck in the driveway.
Okay.
And that's all.
You're doing fine. Thank you.
Okay.
If you would, sign the sheet there so we can have some record of
I'll be back to say it again.
you can always come speak again. I was doing this for those primarily who couldn't come back the second time. But it's your call. Sir?
Good morning. My name is John Poswall, and I live on Wilsontown Road, which is further in on Garden Bar. Our concern on Garden Bar Road, I think virtually all of us, I know in our subdivision, have been hit on Garden Bar Road. It's a very dangerous road. It's obviously very narrow, and our concern is that you're talking about a new entry off of Garden Bar, and not only for vehicles, but also specifically, apparently, for horse trailers to be coming up Garden Bar Road. Some years ago, we complained, those of us, as I say, I think every one of us have been hit at least once, some more than once, by vehicles speeding on the road, and just simply because it is such a narrow road. We complained to the county. Your numbers, statistics probably on accidents won't reflect necessarily all the accidents, because most of us don't call the highway patrol. You know, you call the insurance company, you get your car fixed, that kind of thing. Or you get your car towed after it's gone off the road, and various things like that. But we did complain to the county some years ago, and the county's response to the dangers involved was to post a sign about 3/4 of the mile in on Garden Bar Road that says curvy road ahead, I think, as if we didn't know. But the concern now is that you're going to be putting more traffic on that road. And it is already dangerous. And so this morning, my first response when I heard is the county has to be crazy to be putting traffic on that road with the problems we already had. I went out this morning to your entry at the facility, and I have to say it's beautiful. And this project is an amazing project. And my response really has changed somewhat, and that is if you could make the entry and Garden Bar Road as beautiful as your current entry that you have, and you could protect, with the wider road, which I'm not quite sure how you could do that on that road, having seen, the narrowness of the road. But if you could do it in a safe manner and have access on that road for all of us, to enjoy this beautiful park, that would be one thing. But if you're going to simply be putting more traffic and specifically larger vehicles on that road, and it's going to be just a little bit of an addition, you're just simply going to create a dangerous condition of public property and have more accidents with more traffic, as well as congestion and so forth. So that is my at least sole complaint or concern. It relates to what you're going to do with Garden Bar, because it is already dangerous. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Boswell. Is there anybody else who would like to speak at this time? You can come back later. Why don't you just walk right on?
I'm going to speak because I'm not sure I can make it later. But anyway, a couple things. And just listening, I'm Marlene Montana and live on Mears Road. And just listening to what the man before me said, it was a really good comment, but we have the same situation on Mears Road. Mears Road was never built to hold 2 fire trucks and a horse. It is an impossibility. There are places where it is way too narrow, and my suggestion is that all of you set up an appointment with CDF before the next meeting. We will, let us know when, we'll arrange to have a horse there, have 2 fire trucks on that road and a horse, and you will find that it is an impossibility. Somebody is going to get killed, either a fire truck or a horse. And in the last month and a half, my window looks directly onto the curve, 90-degree curve. There have been 2 people thrown from horses because a horse trailer has come around that corner, cut the corner, and there's been a horse coming where they ride all the way out to their house and down Mount Vernon. And they have actually had 2 people thrown in the last month and a half. So we need to do something with the road. We're saying we're just going to add more to the road and not open the other side of the road until maybe the state will give us more money. That may never happen. So it's not that everybody's against the park. I think what we need is we need both sides open equally. You can't overburden one side and not the other. You need to be both. There's a couple other things. You've removed on the hunting, the 1/2 mile from the house. If you'd all like to come by the house, I can show you the bullet hole in our window from somebody shooting at the park. And they apparently were having a little fun, shooting in the air and coming down. And we asked our neighbor, who is the he works with the county anyway for on the animals to come over and take a look, and he did. And all we can figure is somebody was over at the park, because we know it wasn't any of our neighbors doing it at the time. They weren't there. And if this is, you say it's going to be supervised. We've already been part of the Boy Scouts. Sorry, we've already done the troop leaders. I can tell you right now, it sounds wonderful, but you cannot watch a bunch of kids at one time, and you get one unhappy child that's going through an unhappy problem with their parents, and they're liable without thinking to stick a gun in the air and shoot, thinking that it's not going to hurt somebody. You cannot supervise unless you're willing to make the parks one-on-one. One park person for every person with a gun. And at the moment, we have no park people going in there. I don't know whether you're aware, but in the summertime, we have homeless sleeping in there. We have followed them in. They go in at night, they come out in the morning. So you're better think in the way of fires. I don't know how many of you were around when Grass Valley had the 49 fire, but if we have homeless sleeping in there now, and it's going to grow, there's no place else for them to go. And you can't blame them. They have no money. But if they light a fire to cook, it's going to go up that hill, and there isn't a fire truck that's going to go down that hill. It's an impossibility when a fire goes up to go down with a fire truck. I know my son-in-law, my grandson-in-law is on the CDF fire department. We've already discussed that. The only other thing is on page 10 of 24, everything says we approve it this way, we approve it that way, unless otherwise approved by the county, which means that whole thing can be thrown out and changed without a lot of people getting any input again. And I'd like to see that wording taken out of the EIR. I think if we go with the EIR, we don't put in there, but it can be changed at any time with the county. And then the only other two things that we would like is they've added 35-mile-an-hour signs on Mears Road. People are now racing down it. Nobody went over 25 until they added a 35, and everybody went, oh boy, now we can speed. We would like the sign to at least come back down. We've contacted the county over and over again and asked that it be changed back down to 25 and a sign be put up, and they did put the 15 on the corner, but not on the roadway for the 25. So that would be a big help. And then the other thing is we would also like an EIR to include Mears Road. It was never done the first time with the park. It has not, somehow or another, Mears side of the park isn't really included in this EIR, even though you're all of a sudden with a use permit, you're attaching them together. It seems a little suspicious that we're going with an EIR for the other side, but we're attaching it to the Mears Road side, expanding Mears Road side, and they're really not a part of the EIR. And so we think this should be added. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you would, put your name there so we can make sure we respond to you directly. Back in the corner, did you want to come speak? You can bring your assistant with you.
I'll try and make it quick. I don't want to sound too redundant. Good morning. My name is Sherry Byers. We have a lot in the Blue Oak Ranch development area next to Hidden Falls. And I'm not going to try and be too redundant here, but you're going to hear the same theme over and over again: access, access, access. My children will eventually be driving out there, and I would encourage you all to take a ride along Mears. And if you've read the EIR, you'll see that Mears is the interim access for the park even after its expansion. And there is no end to that interim designation. Now, I would challenge you that with all of this extra traffic coming through, just general traffic now is speeding through there. There are blind curves. I'm concerned for my family, and I really do think that access needs to be a priority before you are offering any other services out at that park. The last thing the county is going to want are liability issues for not listening to us and making sure that access is safe for everyone. So I'm not going to go into the hunting and the fire and all the other issues. You'll see me again at the next meeting. But between now and the next meeting, I would just encourage you, do some homework, look at Garden Bar, look at Mears. Expansion needs to be done very deliberately with access growth. And right now there's no money for access. Correct, Andy?
Money for anything, the way I read the newspaper.
So I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but it's a big issue. So we need to be sure that the funds are there. If there are funds for expanding the park, putting in all kinds of additional amenities for people, let's look at those funds and make sure they're properly allocated. Perhaps access is a better initial allocation for those funds than all of the extra activities. Okay?
Thank you for your comments. If you would, sign the sheet there. Is there anybody else who wants to speak to us now?
Good morning. I have some written comments, so I'm not going to go in all the details. You will have all your leisure to study that.
In addition to your written comments, do you have a name?
Yes. The first thing, I think we need to give credit to the county for the regional park.
And your name might be what?
My name is Claude Duss.
Okay.
I live just adjacent to the park. And, I'm using frequently the park. I think, here, quite often you hear about complaint. It's clear that the county has done a great job. What we need to ensure is that we don't take more risk. And specifically, I think we talk about the traffic area. Mears is not maintained. The road is not clean. The trees are not trimmed. 2 horse trailers cannot pass nearby without touching each other. It's really dangerous. And that's the liability of the county to take care of that. Secondly, I would talk about hunting. Hunting, my horses are grazing next to the park. We have family living nearby with children. Allowing hunting is going to be very costly for the county if you want to reduce the risk. Last year, we worked together with the country game warden, and he trapped some wild pigs. Why don't we follow the same path? Just do it in such a way that we don't have to shoot guns. It works, and that's something which is proven. And I would certainly say that if the county has to balance the income of 20 permits per year versus the cost of enforcing the rules or making sure there is limited risk, it doesn't make any economic sense. On wildfires, we all know the risk of wildfires. We take all the precaution we can on our property, trim the trees, graze. But beyond that, I think when you set up a campfire, you're opening the door to abuses. And I believe that the county is going to take additional liability and additional risk by doing so, and a number of additional costs. So, in addition, I believe that the county will follow the air pollution control, which means you can only burn on the prescribed burn days and burn hours. So are you going to enforce this? Are you going to control this? It means that you will need to build additional storage for water, access for fire trucks, and so on. So we can really question whether the risks are outweighing the benefits on this one. And finally, I'm a horseback rider. Setting up a disc golf course nearby, that's going to create a lot of additional issues with horseback riders because horses don't like flying objects. And that's a risk you will have. So overall, what I'm suggesting is that we work with the neighborhood together with the Planning Commission and try to find solutions to address that and to make even a better place. We can certainly do that. The current document I have seen does not address properly all these issues. And I think it's only going to increase the cost for the county and create additional risk. So I'm going to leave my document.
Okay, if you would, sign the sheet there, give the document to our clerk. Is there anybody else who wants to speak? Please, sir, come on up. Give us your name and then say what you have to say.
My name is Robert Lakovic. I live on 4053 Wilsontown Road, which is off of Garden Bar at the top. On the other side of Coon Creek, about a half mile. So we're about a mile from the proposed entrance, the equestrian entrance. I've had horses. I love horses. I've ridden horses. We have horse property. And I think a park there would be great. I've been in the park. My concern is Garden Bar Road. In my household, we've had 3 cars totaled on Garden Bar Road. Not through any fault of ours. They're blind corners. It's narrow. That road would not pass the county requirement now for a fire truck. I had to build a bigger driveway and a turnout for a fire truck to get by than Garden Bar has. I don't know if you've ever driven down Garden Bar, but it's blind corners. It's very narrow. There's no shoulders. And if somebody comes by with a 4-horse trailer, they can't make the corner and stay on their side of the road. It's impossible. So you're going to have collisions. We've already had them. I had a cattle hauler missed me by about 2 inches, loaded with cattle coming down, because they still run cattle up on the top at the very end of Garden Bar. That's a lot of open space, a lot of cattle trucks. The big haulers, they put a pilot truck in front of them to let you know they're coming with an 18-wheeler. But somebody with a stock trailer, they don't bother. And when they come around, or a propane truck, or a FedEx truck, or a UPS truck, or you name it, there just isn't enough room. So that's my concern. I don't want to see anybody hurt. Luckily, our head-on collisions, nobody was injured. It was just property damage. But we were just very lucky. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. If you would, sign your name. Anybody else want to speak on this matter? Just one more, two more? Okay. Come on up. You still have the opportunity at the next hearing if you want to come back. Okay.
Hi, my name's Kathy Hoggensmith, and I live on Ridge Road in Newcastle. I'm a visitor to Hidden Falls, and I'm supportive of the conditional use permit being approved. So I wanted to thank the county park staff for being as responsive as possible as they can be to the people who live near the trailheads. So the people on Mears and the people who live on and off Garden Bar Road. I've been to forums where the county staff has tried to be as responsive as possible. And the times I've either ridden my bicycle or driven over to off Mears to the current Hidden Falls parking lot, it seems like the road is narrow, but the traffic that we've encountered has been super careful, and perhaps there's better signage, or the more people are trying to access it, they can come to realize that it is a narrow road. It's rural country, and we're trying to preserve that. So, we can try to avoid this racetrack feeling. A park is a wonderful thing, and the people who live as close to the park as some of the people who've commented here, what a great thing for them, and it's a wonderful thing to share with the rest of the community. And I am probably going to come back on the 24th, is it?
28th.
28th.
2 weeks
and,
from today. Yeah,
thank you for...
we look forward to seeing you then. If you would,
Okay.
go ahead and sign in. And we had one more comment back here. 2, 3, 4. Well, just keep coming.
Good morning. My name is Shannon Bradley, and I'm the business coordinator with Nevada Irrigation District. And I'd like to take this opportunity to apologize for a slight oversight on my behalf, that the district did not offer written comment back, I believe, in July when comments were requested. And so it was brought to my attention just recently that the public hearing was being held, and I wanted to make sure that concerns and interests of the district in working with the county were identified. Because I had such short notice that this was, a project being heard today, I haven't had a chance to look at the EIR. All of concerns may, in fact, be addressed in the document itself with the agencies and how we've cooperated in the past. So if it's redundant, I apologize, but I wanted to take the opportunity to raise the issue that comments weren't officially submitted for this phase of the project. I did prepare a letter that I will leave, so I'm not going to go into detail each of the concerns. However, I believe that communication was started with this project, so I believe that there has been some ongoing communication in the beginning. And it seems that with the development of the first park or first phase of the park, or however you address the other portion of this, that the district and the county were able to incorporate a good working relationship so that the district could maintain access to the canals so that we could properly maintain and operate them. That's a clear intention so that we can continue to flow our waters and take care of the facilities that we need to take care of. And in addition to the water quality, the canal protection measures, the safety of the people in the parks, because we do have several spillways flow, that would be spilling water in and out, and those are undetermined flows. So there are some concerns that, like I said, haven't been able to review the document. They may already be addressed, but if they're not, I just wanted to raise the issue and address that.
Okay, well, you can leave your comments with the clerk if you want to. Plus, you have 2 more weeks now to look at those comments. Good. Thank you, Shannon. Sir, come on up.
Good morning. Eugene Polgar from Blue Oaks Ranch, adjacent to the property. I'm not going to reiterate a lot of the comments. My main concerns really are the access roads that people talked about, so I'm not going to drill into it. The next one is fire danger. It's a moderate to high fire danger, that entire area. And again, comments about allowing people to set fires on certain days. I think that, you start sending mixed messages, and I think not having it at all sends a clear message. We don't support fires, especially if there's no ranger. If you go to a state park, I do a lot of camping at state parks, there's a park ranger at the places where they allow fires that can walk around, make sure it's under control. I doubt there's going to be a full-time park ranger. The biggest concern I have, or is just missing from the current EIR, is about the hunting. So it talks about the park will be closed during hunting, and then it also lists that the park hours, and it basically gives it 6 a.m. till a half hour before sunset. Well, that's actually the Department of Fish and Game's rules for hunting. So if the rules are you can't hunt during the park is open, then you actually can't follow Department of Fish and Game hunting rules to allow the park. So you're going to have to close the park on days you're hunting. So the EIR conflicts with itself on saying you're going to follow the Department of Fish and Game rules and then don't allow hunting during park opening hours. So that needs to be corrected. Second thing about that too is, again, supervision of that. There's 20 permits per year. Going to allow hunting doesn't make a lot of sense from a business sense. I mean, you can't be making that much money to do that and take on all that liability, trying to manage those permits, enforce rules, things like that. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So anyway, beautiful park. The way it's being used now is, I think, works well. I think people are concerned about the traffic, but trying to add other activities, as you mentioned, is starting to change the nature of the park. So,
good. Thank you. If you wanted to sign in, we can make sure that. No, I'm not sure about that. We'll do. There was another comment in the back.
Hi, my name's Mark Roberts, and I live right next to the entrance to the current Hidden Falls staging area. And I have 3 just concerns I want to bring up: water, access, and hours. The water, as I understand it, they've had a problem with the well there. I guess because people will come up and use the fire hydrant to fill up their water trucks. That's what we've been told. And so at times there's been an outhouse put there because they can't use the regular bathroom facilities. Well, that outhouse has become a permanent facility. It was kind of on and off at the beginning, and now it's always there. One of the things that happened was, the outhouse got tipped over. There's a little drainage section right there where it got tipped over, and that drains right onto my property. So I have a concern about that. I'm also worried about the water, as far as you guys always have these mitigations that include an access to water for fire danger. And the fire danger there, the canyon there comes right up my property. And so I have a real concern about any fire there. And so I would also put my voice into not allowing any campfires. I'd like to see a no smoking sign. During the summer, that place is just a tinderbox, and I see cigarette butts on the ground all the time, and that's really worrisome during the summer. And then I would also add my voice to the access. It's my understanding, and I don't know if I have this correctly, but that the Mears Place, which is the last section of the road that joins the park, is a private road, and that the county is not responsible for upkeep, and that just seems wrong to me, especially with the consideration of putting more traffic on that road. The county should really be responsible for keeping that road up to date, repave as necessary and whatnot. And the last thing was hours. It's supposed to be closed half an hour after sunset. And recently it seems like it has been, but I know during the summer that it's been open till like 10:30 at night, and the kids will get down there and do donuts and stuff, and I can hear that from my house because, like I said, I'm right next to the entrance. So I would like to see a little bit more emphasis put on actually keeping that gate, locking that gate, especially during the summer when it's tempting for the kids to use that as a hangout and someplace to go and have fun. That's it. Thank you.
You want to sign in? Is there anybody else? You'll still have an opportunity on the 28th to make comments. Do you? Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Margaretta Sherman Mohammer, and I've been out there about 40 years, rode the land between Camp Far West and Mears Road and Bear River my whole life. I was one of the original people that proposed maybe we should put a park and a green belt in there when they were going to subdivide, because we just felt it was a beautiful place and it should be preserved. And not to have so much traffic would be nice, because people who live in the country and want to have ranches enjoy that serenity and peace. And now I'd like to see it kept that way. We have a large stretch of property on the back canyon backing up to McCrary's Ranch, or the first speaker was talking about the ranch on Hubbard Road. And there's already a lot of shooting back there. I feel uncomfortable even going on my horse on my property in the summertime because there's so much shooting, for fear that maybe someone might shoot across the fence and hear the footsteps of my horse. I don't understand, with all of the things going on in the world, why we should mix the two, a pedestrian and horse park that is so small and in the middle of such a beautiful community surrounding, with hunting and camping, when there's so many other big national areas to do that. So that's my concern, and fire is a very big concern.
Good. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else? Seeing nobody? Okay, then what we're going to do is we're not going to close the public portion. We're just going to continue it. And do we need a specific motion to take this to January 28th at 11 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay, maybe one of the commissioners would like to so move. Is there a second? Okay. There's a motion on the floor. All those in favor of continuing the matter until the 28th of January at 11 a.m., say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, so this matter will be picked back up again in 2 weeks at 11 a.m. Thank you all for your comments. We'll take a 5-minute break here while we reconfigure for the next item.
Okay.
I didn't read that in there.
You guys ready? Let's roll. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could, let's get the next item started. The next item on our agenda is a 1055 item, nuisance abatement for Thomas and Tony Castleman, 975 White Oak Drive in Colfax. And the presenter on this will be who? Paul, is Kathy here? Oh, okay. Okay, Kathy?
Office.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
And before Kathy starts out here, let me just set the stage for the commission here today, what we're doing. This is basically an administrative proceeding that's held under the provisions of the zoning code to abate a nuisance. So in this proceeding, you're acting as the finders of fact and in essence, the judges. We will have the code enforcement officer present evidence, and then there has been notice to the affected property owner, who has an opportunity to also present evidence here today, as well as any other person who wishes to speak. Because this is an administrative proceeding, we are going to be swearing in each of the witnesses, so the testimonies today will be under oath. And at the end of the hearing, then you will have an opportunity to determine whether or not to issue an order of abatement.
Okay, and you and I had had a discussion earlier. There was a reference to this matter also being before the Placer County Superior Court. Apparently, this administrative proceeding can proceed at the same time as that one. Would you like to explain to the Commission why we can proceed?
Correct. There's several different remedies available under the zoning ordinance. They're all separate from each other. That proceeding has been going along for quite some time. There's no resolution, but nothing that will be utilized here today will be utilized in that proceeding. This is a separate proceeding.
Okay. Very good. Kathy, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations and welcome, Commissioners. My name is Kathy Wisted. I am a Placer County Code Enforcement Officer. Code Enforcement is before you today regarding a nuisance abatement request for 975 White Oak in the rural Colfax area. Staff has completed a staff report. I believe you each have copies of those. And my testimony today is going to summarize the past, but primarily focus on the current status of this site. The project
Stand and raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
State your name for the record.
Kathy Wisted.
Thank you.
The subject site is located, again, at 975 White Oak Drive in the White Oak Estates subdivision, Book M, page 83, in the unincorporated area of Placer County near Colfax. This property is the first developed parcel on the south side of White Oak Drive, west of Highway 174, between Rollins Lake Road and the Bear River at the Nevada County line, identified by parcel number 099-120-012-000. There are larger rural properties in the vicinity near a restaurant, a mobile home, and a storage yard, but as you approach the subject property, the adjacent properties are all residential in nature. This development, this is the property at the entrance to this development, so everybody that goes in and out of the development does get the visual of the accessory storage violation, and it is visible from both travel lanes of White Oak Drive. The zoning on this property is residential single family, combining agricultural, combining minimum building site of 3 acres. The owners of record are Thomas Lee and Tony Renee Castleman. I've got an aerial. It's hard to see, but you can see some of the vehicles in front and to the side of the residence. Thomas and Tony Castleman acquired this property in November of 1999. Code enforcement received the first complaint of junk cars in May of 2000. The violations were confirmed 3 citations were ultimately issued, penalties were imposed, and the case file was closed in 2004. New complaints regarding excessive vehicle storage were received in November of 2007 and January of 2008, and our file was reactivated March of 2008. It is this investigation that has resulted in the actions before you today. And as you know, our division does try diligently to encourage and obtain voluntary and cooperative compliance through communications and education of the property owners, and staff have attempted numerous times to obtain compliance with the councilman's, but we have been unsuccessful. And as evidence in the staff report, as well as testimony given today. As recently as yesterday at 10:35 in the morning, a field visit and plain view inspection determined that there's still approximately 21 vehicles stored on the subject property. There was limited visibility. I need additional information on 4 of the vehicles. There were no plates visible, so I don't know the DMV registration status of those vehicles. But 14 have been confirmed expired registration, which is an inoperable vehicle by county definition. There does appear to be 2 additional vehicles in the backyard. Only one of those vehicles had current registration to the councilman name. You can see on the slide, the primary violation is an accessory storage violation of the zoning ordinance. There are several components of that. This property is 3 acres in size. They get a maximum 500 square feet of outdoor storage. Of that 500 square feet, they can have no more than 200 square feet of inoperable vehicle storage, which is 2 average-sized sedans. This property far exceeds that. Only non-commercial vehicles that's registered to the property owner, tenant, or resident shall be stored on site. It's not the county's intent to have our private properties be used as vehicle storage yards. And no outdoor storage is permitted in the front setback at all. In this case, 75 foot from the center line of traveled way from White Oak Drive. And using a rangefinder, it was determined that we had a front setback violation as well. An additional violation involves the total number of cars stored on the property. The storage, repair, and maintenance and restoration of vehicles in residential zones shall involve only vehicles that are registered to the property owner, lessee, or tenant on the site as shown by the current DMV. And previous testimony and the accessory storage section mandates that as well. At this time, as of yesterday's inspection and documentation, at least 6 of those vehicles are not even in the councilman name. 5, I need additional information in order to determine the extent of registration. The total number of vehicles allowed on the 3-acre property, the absolute maximum would be 5 if the councilmans were able to successfully show that 2 of those were historic or special interest. Otherwise, they would be limited to a maximum of 3 vehicles stored on site. And for further clarification, I'll just read the definition of the inoperable vehicles pursuant to the county definition standards. It's any car, truck, boat, or motorcycle, or commercial vehicle that is not currently registered and capable of driving on a public roadway and/or is not operable and clearly cannot be readily made operable because of damage, missing parts, or any other condition that precludes its use. I do have a few photographs that give you a sense of what the community and staff have observed on the property over the years. Pretty clear depiction. Some of the vehicles have moved around. But like I said, as of yesterday, we're looking at approximately 21 vehicles. And I'd like to add for the record that with regard to the noticing, because we will be seeking a finding that they were properly noticed, my staff report was completed prior to the notice of nuisance abatement. I did provide copies, a declaration of proof of service and a declaration of posting of that notice abatement. The commission clerk does have those for the file if you care to review those. And you do have confirmation of noticing of the nuisance itself and timelines for compliance. The notice of nuisance was It was posted on-site August 12th of 2009 and subsequently mailed August 13th of 2009. The notice of nuisance abatement was posted at 12:13 p.m. on December 15th, 2009, and mailed on December 15th at 11:02 in the morning. I did speak with Tom Castleman this morning. Mr. Castleman did indicate that he would be here at the hearing today, said that he was unclear as to what the expectations were as to bring his property into compliance. So I would ask at this time that the Planning Commission accept the recommendations and findings contained in the staff report, issue an order declaring that the property is in fact a nuisance, and authorize code enforcement to abate the nuisance if the owner fails to remedy this within the new prescribed timeline set forth by the Commission. And I'm happy to address any questions that you may have regarding the information in the staff report or my testimony here today.
Kathy, you said that there was a proof of service of a mailing of the notice that the clerk has?
Yes.
Kathy, if you have that, I'd like to see it, please. And hurry up.
Procedures that went through when they first bought the property, and you said that there were penalties assessed, and I guess the cars removed or whatever back in the 2000 to 2004 era.
Correct.
Could you go through that with me?
With the
Yes. What kind of notice was given? What was the problem, and what was the remedy?
It would same basically as what's before today as far as the number of vehicles. We had the criminal arena available at that time. The county resources were at a different state than they are today. The nuisance abatement hearing and procedure was not as readily available as it is today, so that was not an action that was ensued. The property got, I believe, down to 13 vehicles, if I'm not mistaken. I had no communication from the community for an extended period of time indicating that there were ongoing or further problems. So we did choose a substantial compliance indication and closed the file in 2004.
So there were no actual, the county or any other government agency didn't actually remove anything from the property at that time?
No, we did not.
Thanks.
From pictures that you have, or do you know that any cars from that first abatement process are still on site?
Again, sir, we did not complete an abatement. There were some criminal citations, which is it's a land use infraction, so monetary damages only. Nothing was removed by the county, and many of the cars, I do have some vehicle inventories where I could compare them, but I'd say probably at least 75 or 80% of the cars are the same cars as we have here today.
Okay, because that's basically the question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, what we're passing around is the notice that Kathy sent out on the 15th of December. We had a right to see that, so I wanted to see it for sure. Okay, if there's no other questions, Kathy, thank you for your input.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Are either Tom or Tony Castleman here? Yes. And do you wish to address the commission? If so, come on up. And I do believe that Kathy will swear you in prior to your comments.
And raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And state your name.
My name is Thomas Castleman. First of all, in 2004, when this problem became too many cars, I appeared before the judge. I brought good pictures to them, and of course, these look pretty bad right now, but the judge dropped it because I have a 60 Impala, I got a 54 Lincoln, and I grant you, they should not be on the property, all these cars, but it's not like it sounds. Now, I currently got time from a judge to give me 90 days to store these cars properly, and that's currently what I'm doing. Now, I have been in touch with Kathy Wested quite a few times in the last 5-6 months and communicate with her. I have 6 of the cars moved right now, so these are not indicative of what it really is at this moment. And as far as a junkyard and nuisance, that makes it sound really bad. The reason I wanted to be here is to let everybody know that this is not a junkyard. I do not work on cars there. I never have. I know that there should be some guidelines for me to be able to store some of the cars there, however properly done. And I didn't mean to offend anybody in the subdivision in any way. No one's ever came to me with a appointment or ever talked to me. I'm in agreement to comply with everything that needs to be done. It's just I've had these cars, some of them for 20 years, a 60 Impala and a 54 Lincoln. They were from my family. I know you can't keep everything in life, but, you know, I assure you that there's no nuisance danger in any of this stuff. So whatever I need to do, I realize I need to do. But I have a court date with Judge Bills in Roseville. He gave me 90 days and some time frame to move these cars. And I was in court 12/17, and he gave me till 3/25 to be able to move them properly, to store them properly, because they're not junk cars. And that's basically what I got to say.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does any commissioner have any questions for Mr. Castleman? Find the right button there.
Yeah. I think you just answered one of my questions. I was a little bit confused between the 2004 citation and what you said to the judge, but this is a more current
yes.
Hearing that you've attended, and you've been given a date of
Yes.
this March.
I've been to in front of the judge twice. He gave me continuance in that because you can't just puff these away. You know, I have to find a proper place to put them. And I moved 6, like I said. And in 2004, the judge actually dropped it. And, you know, back then, and I'm not trying to be offensive or try to offend anyone. No one's ever come to me personally and talked to me about it. And it doesn't look all that bad. I mean, that looks pretty bad right there, but I don't know where they got those pictures. But anyway, I apologize to everybody here and all the neighbors and everything else, but these aren't junk cars. I know I realize I can't keep them all, and there's not no 22 cars in that property, I assure you.
You say there are or not?
Well, there aren't. Even here, they're listed. There's a blue Suburban, a green Suburban, a Chrysler. None of these are on there. I don't have half the things that are listed here. And I'd like to point this out if I could. I mean, I don't even own some of these cars. They're not even there. I swear to you, they're not there.
Well, how many cars do you have on the property?
On the property now, they're right here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 12. Now, I have moved 6 cars. Now, they're talking about a car trailer and a covered trailer, too. And like I say, you know, I'm trying to put it in perspective, but there's not. The cars aren't junk. There's no junk at the house or anything like that. Quite frankly, I was a little bit beside myself when I heard how this is described as a wrecking yard or a junkyard. It's not the case.
You see, it sounds like a lot of these cars are not registered. You know.
Well, they're not. A lot of them
the
aren't.
process is, you know, normally if you want to have a car but not use it, it's still registered, but you have it in non-use with the DMV. Is that correct? But these are just not registered.
Well, I've had them for 25 years. That was back before you would have to pay the $5 for a non-op. It's just that I've had them so long, and I've taken them everywhere with me, and they run all good. All the old cars do. And you hate to go and register a car. As you know, the governor doubled the license on them, and I don't drive them. You know, they're just something I like to look at. They're beautiful cars. Those will look too good right there. But that's kind of what it is. I feel like I could own something and look at it like you would a tree or whatever, you know. I don't use them on the road. Don't drive them. I start them up and look at them, and I appreciate them. That's all.
So the cars in the picture, you say, are not your cars? And are not.
Well, no, the one on the top right, it belongs to my son. I'm going to move that. The white pickup belongs to my son, but the Tahoe's mine, the 71 Buick's mine, the Camaro's mine, and the red pickup's mine. Now, I noticed that on the picture before this, it shows a 60 Impala and a 54 Lincoln. Now, it shows them there. They haven't been gone for a while. I put them at my other residence in Sacramento. So that's kind of what I'm doing.
Were you aware, or are you aware of what the county code says in terms of the amount of vehicles that you can have?
I am not. I have never physically, I've talked to Kathy Wested several times on the phone. I've called her back, and she's called me and all. I've never met her. You know, nobody's ever got an appointment with me to talk to me, and I would like to have some guidelines. I'd like to know what I can or can't do. I don't want to offend anyone.
So you were apparently cited back in 2004?
I know that I went before the judge. The judge, I brought nice pictures of him. He liked the cars, and he dropped it. And that's why it went from 2004 up until now. Otherwise, they would have came and got him.
And so the no county employee has discussed the county standard with you? Is that
No. I have some guidelines here now, and I just received this in the mail, and it talks about how that every 200 square foot, you can have a car, it has to be 300 feet from other residences and on and on. I will look the code up, you know, and check it out and ask questions about it. Can I put them in the back in an area that no one can see neatly? They're not junk. Each and every one of you would love these cars. I just want some guidelines.
I was going to ask, so from the first infraction, when somebody approached you and said you were in violation, they never told you what the violation was?
Well, I went before the judge.
You had too many cars, how you should have stored the cars.
Right. No one told me.
No one told you.
I went before the judge. And he didn't tell me.
I understand what you're saying, that whether he dismissed it or not.
Your question, should I have looked it up?
We're not listening to
I hear you.
what you're doing in court.
I understand.
We're looking at the pictures and what's going
I
on
understand.
today.
Yep. I need some help.
So nobody from the first time you were contacted on the second violation that they said you could only have 3 cars?
They said I had too many cars. Now, I did not know till today that I could consider 2 of them historic and 3 non-commercial vehicles. I never took it. I take it serious. Now, I didn't take it serious then because the judge says, well, I like these cars, and dropped it. I had no reason to want to think about it again, but I am thinking about it now. That's why I showed up here. Even though I realized I have a appointment with the judge and he gave me time and all, I didn't care. I still showed up here. I know that doesn't matter.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
Respectfully, I respect what you're saying, and I'm going to, you know, do the proper thing with these things, but I need to know how many cars can I keep? What can I actually do? There was a thing in here that said that all the neighbors had talked to them, and I guess I can't put nothing in my backyard because it would be 300 feet from his house. I don't know the rules, you know, and I'd like to keep, you know, my cars as many as I can without offending anybody.
Go ahead.
You've been given by a court judge till 3/25 to come into compliance. Is it your intention to
Yes, move them.
move them and be in compliance with the county code?
Absolutely.
By that date?
I have always kept my court dates, and I've never dissed off anybody on this ever. And I do want to take care of it. I don't want to lose my car, certainly.
Mr. Castleman, I'm holding a notice of nuisance abatement dated December 15, 2009. Kathy Wisted testified that she mailed this to you. In fact, it's addressed to you at 2 places, a post office box in Citrus Heights and your White Oak address in Colfax.
Right.
And it also says, with an affidavit attached to it, that it was posted at the premises up in Colfax. Did you actually receive this thing?
It was to my wife, in her name, Tony. That wasn't to me.
It's addressed to Thomas and Tony Castleman.
Well, she was supposed to appear in court, and she did.
Well, the question was, did you receive this notice?
Yes.
Did you read it?
Yes.
Okay, now.
I appeared.
But, yeah, this was not for court. This was for here.
Oh, no, I did not know that. That I did not know.
And it says right in here that you can only have 3 or less vehicles unless 5 if 2 are defined as historic. It cites the section of the code that you're in violation of. And yet you stand here today and say that until today you were unaware of all of these standards?
Well, let me say, I need to say this, I think. My wife and I are split up, and I'm staying at the place in Sacramento. I've been there for quite a while. Now, whether or not, I know that she got a citation to appear, and I know that I've talked to Kathy Wested several times about this, but I never actually had any guidelines ever.
Do you have a post office box in Citrus Heights?
Yes.
Do you retrieve the mail from it?
I have not, I have proof of service here, and I have not picked those up. But I really didn't need to because I knew I was going to go to court, and I didn't realize the city council I'd be appearing in front of.
Yeah, well, I just find it hard to believe that, that you had no notice of what the requirements were after 8 years, 9 years.
No, no.
What's going on?
Not 9 years, it's the last 6 months.
Since 2000.
Yeah, but
2000.
the judge told me that it was dropped, and
Yeah, well, we're not talking about the legal proceeding here.
Yeah.
How did he know to come here?
but I had no way to know that.
How'd you know how to come here today?
Because I got my wife, ex-wife or whatever, got a paper to be here. She's supposed to be here. She didn't. She was sick. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, she's not here. You
I got it right here in front of me. That's why I'm here.
Okay,
Otherwise, how would I know to be here?
It's unusual for us to have to deal with these notices of violation like this.
I can appreciate that. I really
In the
can.
years I've been on the commission, which is 14, I've seen 3 maybe of these things. Extremely rare.
Well, it's not as terrible as I'm let out to look like. It's not.
Well, we will take your word for that. We're going to give the neighbors an opportunity to talk here in a little bit.
Sure.
Question I have for you is, what would you have the commission do? We don't like to do this either.
Pardon me?
How would you have the commission respond to this? What would you have us do?
What I have you do, I didn't think that I had to answer to anyone but the judge at the time.
Yeah,
Even
you're here now,
yeah.
and we are going to make a decision one way or the other.
Well, respectfully, that's why I'm standing here.
What would you have us do?
Give me 90 days to comply. That way, there I could do it properly. As we all know, money's tight, and I want to take the cars and put them at, store them properly. If do 6 of them, and I'm not here out of fear of anything. I just want to comply with it.
I guess my only question is to move the cars, if they're all running, or if you have a
They all run.
You can't move them faster than that?
No. I've already moved 6, and I can't. I'm going to move some to my dad's, and get them out of there. And timing is everything. I don't want to. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, I need the 90 days to move them.
No problem.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions, Rich?
I guess I just wanted to maybe kind of get clarification from you of understanding that the consequence, whatever time that we talk about today for the compliance on this, are you aware of what the county's consequence is if you're unable to comply by the time?
I understand by reading this that they would hire someone to come and remove them, and get rid of them and at my expense. And I hate for that to happen. They're nice cars. And sometimes you can't just take off and get all this done at once. Like I say, I agree there shouldn't be all the cars there, but it's not as bad as that picture depicts right there.
Okay. Anybody else have any additional questions, Vicki?
Were you notified in August about anything at all?
In August of 2009?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I'm not sure. I've been before the judge 2 times, and he gave me a continuance.
What was the first time you went before the judge?
Well, actually, my wife went.
Well, who
and
when did either of you go first?
Well, I seen the judge. The last time I seen the judge was 12/17.
No, not last. First time. You said you've been there twice. I was just
right.
Wondering what the first time was.
Well, I had. What had happened is there was a court date before this with my wife's name on it, and she couldn't come. She got a continuance. Her father passed away, and that's why I went 12/17.
So you haven't been to any other?
And I did move cars.
Proceeding before that?
No, none.
And no notification from the county prior to that either?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe one more. Just to clarify in my mind, maybe if you can recollect back, have you had any face-to-face meetings with Kathy?
Never met her, only by phone.
Okay, and you've talked to her several times on the
Yes.
phone? And
We had good conversation, and I made some promises, and I kept them.
what were the timeframes of those telephone calls?
That was the last 6 months.
In the last 6 months?
Yeah.
Okay. And none previous to that?
Well, back in '04, I did.
All right.
And then I went to court, and
Okay.
but I didn't even know this entity existed about this, but I do now, city council.
Okay, any other questions for
Or maybe, was there any request from Kathy to enter your property and have you show her exactly what you had or anything like that?
I've never had a scheduled appointment for her to be there. I've never met her.
Okay.
And I would like to do that. I have no problem with that.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to comply.
Any other questions? I guess not. Do you have anything else to say before?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
For participating.
Okay.
You want rebuttal?
If I could, please.
Okay. You're still under oath.
Still under oath, absolutely. I do have a couple things for the record. There was another officer present with me yesterday for the Plainview field inspection that documented the 19, probably 21 vehicles. Looking through the trees in the backyard, are we looking at the tops of 2 vehicles? So only 2 are in question. There were 19 vehicles. I do have the vehicle inventory. Officer Scott Sparks, who is here today, was also present with me, if need be, for that, where I could submit the vehicle information sheet for the record as well. Only 4 of those vehicles did not have plates. Everything else had plates that we were able to see and identify and check the registration status. So there's clearly more than 12 vehicles. I do have a copy of the docket from Judge Panesci from March 14th, 2003, docket number 63007-165, where Mr. Castleman was fined $500. So with regard to his statements that the matter was dropped, I'm not sure what he's basing those statements on. And I believe that you have attachment F in the staff report that also indicates a prior notice sent to Mr. Castleman. We have an address of record that we are required to send things to. I do my best to notify property owners with subsequent addresses when they are brought to our attention, and you'll see that in further attachments where I started putting the post office box, knowing that he was estranged from his wife. I find it interesting that he likes to have cars to look at, but he doesn't live at the property where the cars are stored. So, I hate that the difference of opinion with regard to what's taking place, my personal observations, the statements that Mr. Castleman has made to me over the years, and his lack of attention to addressing this in any type of timely fashion. Almost every time I go to anybody's property, out of respect, if nothing else, I leave a business card, and it says, please contact me. There's notice of inspections. I could give you a lot of documentation about our attempt to communicate with the Castlemans to resolve this. I cannot make somebody update their address of record. I have to go with what's before me. So I appreciate the opportunity to rebut that.
All right, thank you. Any additional questions for Kathy? I guess not. Scott?
Maybe I do. I just would like to, so basically what I heard him say is that he talked to you in 2004 on the phone, and it was I believe last June was the next contact, at least verbally.
The last telephone contact I had with Mr. Castleman was April 14th, 2003.
That was the last one?
That was the last telephone contact. We tracked the citations. That was the last telephone contact.
Also, there was no telephone contact in 2009?
That was the prior contact. Okay. I'm going forward to answer the second half of that question, sir. I apologize.
Okay. Sorry.
Well, if I can, just to elaborate a little bit on the case file, March 5th of 2008, our initial letter is sent where we notify the property owner that we received a complaint about the property. The language is please contact us. Within 10 days of receipt of this letter, no communications were received. I mailed a notice of code violation on April 14th, 2008. No communications from the Castlemans, from either Castleman. Final notice was sent June 19th, 2008. No communications from the Castlemans. There was 2 times they've got a large Akita that's aggressive. There were 2 times that the dog was loose and I could not leave a business card or a notice on the property. Absent that, it's standard practice. I want you to know that I've been to your home. July 8th, 2009, I had 3 different phone numbers. The numbers have changed several times. Tried Tom's phone number, it was disconnected. Tried Tony's cell phone number, didn't get a response, but had a weird call that came right back. I recognized the number, we've got caller ID. She refused to talk at that time and hung up. I called Tom's girlfriend's phone number, trying to reach him. A male at that location gave me an alternate number for him. I called that alternate number. They said, there's nobody here by that name. Please don't call this number again. I really do my best to communicate with people to try to resolve these things. Looks like my first phone call, I received a telephone message on July 13th, 2009 from Tom Castleman. I called him back on the 14th, and just real briefly, separated from his wife. He just heard about the extent of our actions. He did give me a current phone number at that time, and mailing, and he said he'd begin to decrease the number of vehicles. So July 14th, this is January 14th, in 5 months, he's only been able to reduce it. That's barely one vehicle a month. It seems as though a little bit more concerted effort would be appropriate to show a faith, or to give us a show of good faith. I've probably been to this property 40 times, and it's all documented. I could get an exact number if need be. July 24th, I did receive a message from Tony Castleman. We document everything. So I could go on and on if the commission, if it pleases the commission. I don't know how necessary
No,
it is.
I think you answered my question.
Okay.
It sounded like there was communication going on, at least attempts at communication.
I do my
And then another question, even though the court case that's going on is a separate matter, but a little bit confused by Mr. Castleman, is that the result of a county citation, or is that, where did that come from?
That is a citation, a land use infraction citation that I issued to Tony. 2 subsequent citations. Again, Tom was saying that they were dismissed. Our records seem to indicate that it ended up in a failure to appear status. The guilty finding on 1 docket number, failure to appear on 2 additional citations. The 4th citation is the citation that is a current action at this time. I confirmed this morning that he does have a court date of March 25th, 2010 down at the Santucci Justice Center. That citation was issued in the name of Tony Castleman, but it's not uncommon for the court to allow a husband or wife to appear for one another.
So he hasn't, well, you say that hearing is on the 25th of March?
It has been continued, and with our superior court system, if the defendant goes in, for example, and we're not present, he goes to an arraignment, he's got an opportunity to plead guilty or not guilty. If the defendant says, oh, Your Honor, my dad died, I need more time, I'm going to register these cars when I get my income tax, whatever the explanation may be, it's not uncommon for our superior court judges to provide an additional opportunity to bring the property into compliance if they're showing up at court and giving these explanations. In this case, because we're not there, I have no idea what the explanation is or is not, and it's not uncommon, unfortunately, for these court matters to go on for 2, 3, 4 years with a single citation. 1 charge, a single citation before any penalty or resolution actually takes place. And it's a part of that reasoning is why we're here today. We need some timely action taken. I don't want to wait another 3 years with 20 cars on a piece of property.
Okay, so the significance of the March 25th date is the next hearing, or it's continued to the 25th?
The criminal citation is continued to the 25th. That's
So no
absolutely a
judgment's been
separate
rendered.
action from what we're asking for today. And what we would, if the abatement were to commence, we get the property in compliance, then we would actually offer a compliance letter for him to take to the court. And at such time, the court would, in all likelihood, historically speaking, they do dismiss those charges. It's always up to the court, but generally we would present a letter saying, hey, the property's presently in compliance, here you go.
Okay, thank you.
Vicki, did you?
I just had one because exhibit, or attachment H is a code enforcement citation from 2008. Did you serve this to a person or to the property?
No, that's submitted as a complaint. Unfortunately, at no time ever has Ms. Castleman answered the door when I go to the property in order to obtain a signature, make contact, or anything. So I did not, that's not a signed citation. You'll notice that it says, it says complaint. So we send it as a complaint to the court, then the court notices them as well to appear.
When you do go up to the door and knock, do you leave a card, a copy of the complaint, a letter, anything at the door that you were there?
Absolutely. Business cards, and there's several examples of what we call a notice inspection. It's just a triplicate form where it's like, please contact us, need to set up a time, et cetera.
And this is what's going on. Okay.
Yeah, I would not leave a copy of the citation. The citation would be mailed.
Compare the titles of the property and the various vehicles to see that. I guess what I'm trying to avoid here is later on someone saying, well, those aren't my vehicles because I don't own them, or that's not my property any longer, and so I'm going to not take part in this process. Is there any question on that? Have you had a chance to research any of the titles of the cars to see if they were registered to anyone or
Yes.
this person?
That is part of the process that we routinely do. I do have access to the DMV records. And you'll note you do have a vehicle information sheet in your file. You don't have yesterday's for obvious reasons. But due to confidentiality laws, it just simply says not owner. It says not O or O. So it's not the owner and it's not the occupant. But I'm not going to tell you who it is because that's privileged information. So you'll see if you look at one of your handouts, or I can certainly make copies of this, if it's in Castleman's name, then it's referencing this property. Tom and Tony are still the owner of record. This information is current as of yesterday with regard to the 14 expired registrations. Now, whether or not he's the owner, he's responsible for what's taking place on his private property, I certainly, absent an abatement order and inspection warrant, cannot go remove that car. Prior to this action commencing, I had authorization from the previous building official to offer free tows on all of the vehicles, which we did. No response. He did not take us up on that. The county has a vehicle abatement program, and we offered to help him remedy this. He was not interested.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
The criminal complaint that's going on right now, the remedy you're seeking from the court there, is that the same as you're seeking here, is the removal of the vehicles, or is the court just likely to impose another fine? Or what are you asking from the court?
The court does not have the authority to order Mr. Thomas to remove the cars.
Okay.
It's monetary damages only. That's with an infraction. That's how it is.
Okay, any more questions by the commission? I guess not. Kathy, thank you.
All right.
Scott, this is an administrative hearing. Do we open it up for the comments from the neighbors? There seem to be a lot here who may want to speak.
There's no reason you can't take comments from the community as to the facts of the circumstances on the property. Again, they would have to be sworn in, and I'd also recommend you give Mr. Castleman an opportunity to rebut it.
We'll give Mr. Castleman an opportunity at the end.
At the end.
That way he can address everybody at once rather than kind of nibbling at it. Okay, that being the case, is there anybody sitting out here would like to come address the commission on this matter? If so, just come right up one at a time. Give us your name, or actually, the clerk will swear you in first, then you can give us your name and say what it is you have to tell us.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
State your name for the record.
Good morning. My name is Michael Nelson. I am a property owner in Wildwood Estates and also a past president of the Homeowners Association. To begin with, I'd like to make sure that the board knows that this isn't a neighborhood squabble or beef or anything of that nature. This nuisance abatement has been going on for 10 years. I've lived in the property for 25. A reasonable and prudent man, I mean, these pictures don't really depict how badly it is. If you were to drive by and look at it, you'd wonder, my gosh, why hasn't something been done before this? Through the board, I filed 2 or 3 different complaints with the code enforcement officers. Kathy and Mike Harris, when Mike was with the department, responded, did what they were supposed to do as far as a report. They submitted it, as I understand it, to the district attorney's office. The district attorney's office, quite frankly, in my opinion, thought that we were small fish and they had bigger things to do that we really didn't count, didn't matter. Years and years went by. The property is getting worse and worse as far as the vehicles. It's definitely bringing blight to the area, and there's no question of that. I contacted Kathy, I'm not sure when it was, but I was informed by her that for some reason the case had fallen off the books. So I filed another complaint to get the case open again. Kathy again responded, did some wonderful work on her part. She spent a lot of time and effort on it, and nothing's been done. Our fear, and my fear, is that if this isn't taken care of, and Mr. Castleman is given again continues, like a shell game. We'll move a car here, move a car there, bring one in, take one out, that there needs to be a time frame to get this taken care of. I don't think we should wait another 10 years to have it cleared up. And again, I'd like to thank Kathy and her work and perseverance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Yes, ma'am, come on up. No, you don't need to sign in. I think we know who you are. That was for the EIRs. If you would, raise your right hand, and Kathy will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State your name for the record.
I'm Bonnie Martello. So we live, there was a map, but we live right next door to Thomas? Is it Thomas? Tom. There has been, I mean, there are a lot of cars there. Being a young widow, my husband passed away 5 years ago. I think that sometimes we can lose sight of what's important in life. One man's junk is another man's gold. So I can see why for Thomas, when he looks at the pictures, that's his gold. When I look at the pictures, or when some of the other neighbors look at the pictures, it's our junk. But I think all of us can go into our homes and somebody would say, well, that's junk, but that's my gold. So I think it's a problem because there are a lot of cars, but I can understand Thomas wanting to hang on to them. So Thomas, if there's anything that we can do to help you, my husband and I live right next to you. He works at the high school. There's an auto shop at the high school. Maybe there's a probability that they could take some of the cars. I don't know.
Why don't, Bonnie, just address it.
Anyways, so I think that it's a problem that needs to be solved. I'd like to see it solved. I'd like to see less cars there. But I'd also like to honor that this is somebody's gold, and to have that ripped away could be very traumatic, and it sounds like he is going through a lot of trauma in his life right now. So that's kind of, it does look like a used car lot, you know, and I think you move into a neighborhood and you have a homeowners association because you want to live at a certain standard. And this would not, you know, if I wanted to live next door to a used car lot, I would have bought a house next to a used car lot. But for him, it's not a used car lot. It's his everything. You know, just when my husband passed, he had all these guitars. I go and look at all these guitars, and to me, they're junk. But for him, it was everything. So I just want to keep perspective on that. That's
Okay,
it.
great. Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that would like to say anything to the commission? I see a reluctant neighbor. Come right on up. Wasn't sure if you were going to join us or not.
My name is Roger
Get sworn in here first.
Aronson.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name for the record.
Thanks again for giving us the chance to state our problem. I live at 1100 White Oak Drive.
And your name is Rob Aronson?
Roger.
Roger, okay.
Aronson. I've lived there approximately 20 years, and I've noticed that this has been increasing, this problem of this collection of cars over 7 to 9 years, to the point of what it is now of up to 20 or more cars. And I'm here to support Kathy and also Jennifer Montgomery and Ms. Malbert, because they've done a wonderful job. And I'd like to state that, yeah, it is probably gold to him, but it's lowering the value of our properties in the way that it is represented to the public when they come into our area of living. It appears to us to be a deterioration of old vehicles that are not being moved, the oil and so forth that is leaching into the ground, and the battery acid, not to mention other things, is also a threat to some nearby wells. The Placer County code enforcement officers need help. They need help in inserting some teeth into this law that she doesn't have to make repeated calls out there without anything happening. And I am so surprised at the disregard of this property owner, and he seems to have an immunity of the law and the zoning regulations. And another thing, a recent moving around of the vehicles on this property to give the illusion that he is doing something with them. I think Kathy's smarter than that. But anyway, and I don't want to take any more time because I have several other neighbors that would like to speak, and I know you'd like to go to lunch probably. But anyway, I'd like to thank the code enforcement officers and those involved, and also that we help them get some teeth into this law so that we can take care of things like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Aronson. You don't need to sign that. Is there, yes, sir, come on up. Raise your right hand and Kathy will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State your name for the record.
My name is Gail Wilson. I live on Ridgeview Court. Ridgeview Court is very close to this, within a few 100 yards. And I recall earlier today, you had a hearing about road problems. Well, we don't have road problems here. Why? This is a residential subdivision. It was created with 32 lots, minimum size 3 acres per parcel. People gone in there, built lovely homes. Many of them, $500,000 to $750,000. But this is the front yard. and it's just getting worse rather than better. Have some pictures I can leave for the staff. But we see our property values go down, and our eyes is insulted by the, well, whether it's a used car lot, junkyard, or what, or a place for abandoned cars. If it's for abandoned cars, all the more reason why it ought to be abated. And it just doesn't seem to get better. Now, we have no ill will against this man and his wife. I've never met them before. But if did Kathy say, did you say you had 40 visits to that property? I couldn't hear.
Something to that effect.
40 visits.
That's a number, yes.
40 visits. Well, and she has not been able to get personal contact. And then Mr. Castleman says he hasn't heard from any of us. Well, maybe there's some reasons why. But the point I'm making is we have a good subdivision. Those roads are good because we pay to have them built. And we pay heavy road assessments every year to keep them up to a good standard. And we don't like this blight at the entryway to our subdivision. Now, you have a beautiful courthouse here to meet in. Would you want this adjacent to your courthouse? And how would you feel about it? Well, just ponder that one. And if Mr. Castleman feels he needs more time, what has he been doing with the time he's had? He's admitted that, you know, these things started 8 or 9 or 10 years ago or some such, a long time. And Kathy, you had the file on this. Do you still have that file?
I think you're pointing to the wrong Kathy, but what's the question?
Okay. Oh, here it is. Okay. Is that the file for this case?
For the property, yes, sir.
Would you show how thick that file is?
She's already testified that she's been doing this for quite some time.
Well, but I want to
like it's
call
about an inch
attention to
thick.
the fact that this man that says he doesn't know what the county rules are, well, there's evidence in how thick that file is, and I would just guess it 1.5 inches or more. And how long do we have to wait? And is the county doing its duty to enforce the law by not bringing this to a conclusion? Mr. Castleman said he needed help. I think he does too. And I think the staff report should be honored and staff authorized to hire somebody to help him remove those cars. That's all I have.
Before you sit down, a few minutes ago, you gave us 4 photographs to include as part of the record.
Yes.
Did you take those photographs?
My wife did.
When did they?
They were taken about 2 years ago.
Okay.
And you've heard testimony that it's worse since then. We dug these out of the file because that's when we started sending letters of complaints in. And one reason there haven't been more complaints because nothing happens when we complain. And that's not Kathy's fault. She's been doing all she can, but the system seems to be not working, and we want it to work on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony and for presenting the photographs. Is there anybody else that would like to address this matter? Seeing none. Oh, one. Okay. Is there anybody else after him? I guess not. You get to be this.
I'll make it 3 minutes, gentlemen. I'm Richard
Okay.
Osgood.
Get sworn in first here.
Okay.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give is, in this hearing, is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And state your name for the...
Okay, I'm Richard Osgood. A couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I lost my wife. I had a lot of beautiful things out where I lived. I met a young lady. I'm a little emotional on this. She says she lived up in the Oaks. So I came up and I saw her house. Beautiful place. When I was going out, I saw all these cars on the right-hand side. So our agreement was that we were going to travel. I was going to keep my rentals and use her base to operate out. We decided, no, times were getting tough. I sold everything off. I sold equipment. I sold a beautiful big boat. And I says to her, honey, and she says, dear, put everything on my property. I says, I can't put anything on your property. It's not zoned that way. Now, we do have 2 trucks and a car, and I know how it is to give away things. When I sold it, had my place sell, and all my equipment, I wish I still had it today, but I don't. Gentlemen, you've got a beautiful building here. You're doing a good job. I'm sorry, I wish I'd back up their contracting again. My residence is at 1466 White Oak. Mrs. Maxine Barnett is my wife. But somebody told her, don't ever take Dick Osgood's name. You may regret it. Gentlemen, have a good day.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Osgood. Mr. Castleman, do you wish to rebut? Okay, come on back up, and I'll remind you, you're still under oath.
I'd like to apologize to all of my neighbors. When I said I needed help, I meant by the homeowner association. I've never been invited. They never discussed it with me. And I really was ignorant to the fact that since 2004, up at 6 months ago, I took it very serious. I went before the judge, and I thought it was over. I'm not familiar with the city council even had any kind of jurisdiction, never thought about it. But the thing is, I realize what I need to do, you know, and the poor neighbors running around there probably hating me, whatever. But here's a list of the and a date of the current vehicles on the property made by Kathy. There's 12. She used the reference of people putting things off in court, and the court has no jurisdiction or whatever. My wife's father did pass away last month, and that is a fact. And the judge, based upon that, did give her more time, 90 days. And as far as, I don't know. I don't know what to say. All I know is I will clean it up. Didn't realize it was so bad. And there was a lady in court that did represent the city council, and she came forward and did say during my wife's testimony that all these things are happening. The judge told her to sit down, and you have nothing to do with this. And had her, whatever. I don't know who she is, whatever. But I just want everybody to know here that I am cleaning it up, and I need some time to do it. And hey, as far as me not doing nothing for 10 years, I didn't think I had to, but I do now. That's it.
Mr. Castleman, can I ask a question of you?
Yes.
Here, see, earlier you made reference to the fact that it was your interpretation that the judge wanted you to, gave you and your wife 90 days
Yes.
to clean up the property, and that it sounded like it might have been your intent at that time to do this by March 25th or March?
No, I've removed 6 cars.
Yeah, but is it your intent to clean up the property by March?
Absolutely, it will be
March?
done.
By the time that you have your next hearing?
That's right.
So that's not quite 90 days, but you apparently consider that to be a fair amount of time?
Yeah, I do. I didn't realize the neighbors were so down on it. I did not know. Somebody should talk to me. I wouldn't. It's not. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. That's my question.
Okay, I guess there's no further questions. Thank you very much, in which case I will call the input session to a close and bring it back to the commission for decision and comment and discussion.
I'll make a motion, but from what I've heard today, and then also what I know about civil court and judgments, a judge can say you should do this by this time, but they don't have the enforcement arm. They can charge them money or whatever, but the court does not send somebody out to abate the problem. we're sort of the last stand for any of the residents of the county to actually authorize the county to take action and remove the property. And having said that, unless somebody else has something to say, I'll make my recommendation.
What is your recommendation?
Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and read it just so Mr. Castleman hears it, so he doesn't have to worry about reading it. And it is the staff recommendation, and I'll read it right down as written. The Planning Commission finds that this matter is categorically exempt under the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Control Act per Section 1836-230, Class 21 enforcement actions by regulatory agencies. 2, the Commission determines that based on the evidence and testimony presented, that a nuisance exists on the real property located at 975 White Oak Drive, Colfax, California, APN number 099-120-012-000. And that's the real property, owned by Thomas and Tony Castleman. They're the property owners of record. Due to the use of said real property in violation of Placer County zoning ordinance sections 17.56.250 accessory storage and section 17.56.320 vehicle repair in residential areas, the Planning Commission issues an order based on the following findings. A, property owners of record were given adequate and proper notice of the date, time, and place of the hearing. B, the property owners of record were given adequate and proper notice of the allegations of the conditions alleged to be a nuisance and were given a reasonable opportunity to abate those conditions prior to the abatement hearing on this matter. C, property owners of record were in attendance at the hearing and given the opportunity to present evidence, testify, and cross-examine witnesses, and they were here, or Mr. Castleman is here. D, sufficient evidence and testimony was presented to establish to the Planning Commission's satisfaction that the use of the property constitutes a nuisance pursuant to Placer County zoning ordinance section 17.62.160A.4 nuisance. And E, the nuisance specifically consists of the following conditions: violations of sections 17.56.250 and sections 17.56.320 of the Placer County zoning ordinance caused by the storage of in excess of 5 operative vehicles in a residential zoned 3-acre property outside accessory storage of inoperative vehicles in excess of 200 square feet, the storage of operative and inoperative vehicles that are not registered to an owner, tenant, or resident of the site, and the maintaining of accessory storage within the front setback area of White Oak Drive. 4, issue said to order state the following. And the Commission requires Tony R. and Thomas L. Castleman to abate the nuisance by removing all vehicles in excess of 3 that are registered to them, up to 5 if the others are established to be historic, and removing all inoperative vehicles in excess of 200 square feet, and remove all accessory storage from the front setback area within 30 days of the date of this order of today. And then B, in the event abatement is not commenced, conducted, and completed in accordance with in the 30 days set forth by the Planning Commission, we authorize and empower the code enforcement officer with jurisdiction to abate the nuisance by disposal of the vehicles and proceed with assessment of the cost and penalties processed outlined in section 17.62.16E of the Placer County zoning ordinance.
Okay, so that is your motion.
That's my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Miskey. Is there any discussion on the motion? I have one point I would like to raise, and that has to do with the time. I realize this has gone on for essentially 10 years, and time is relevant. Mr. Castleman has asked for additional time. His pleas fall to some extent on deaf ears because of the passage of a large amount of time. But you may recall that during the hearing, I asked him what he wanted us to do. And he said he needed some time, and he thought that 90 days would be reasonable. Now, 90 days is a lot longer than the 30 that you're giving. My recommendation would be to accommodate his request to some degree, and recognizing that we've had 10 years already of this, to set a date specific, and that would be in the second half of paragraph 4A, Ken, where it says, a specific day, to require it to be abated by the 25th of March. That corresponds to the same date that apparently his next court hearing is on, and it might be a little bit easier to remember with that date. And it does give him more of the time that he even himself said would be reasonable.
Going back to my motion, the reason I gave 30 days versus putting any other time in there, in his testimony, he's got another property that he can move it to, and he was talking about his father. I mean, he gave 3 places, and I think any one of us could go down to the local mini storage and outdoor storage and probably within a week move, 25 cars. It's been going on enough, and I thought I heard enough in the testimony. I mean, just contradictions, and
Yeah, that was really why I asked the question about the court date, not because the court date really is binding. That's going to be a separate penalty if he doesn't meet that date.
Right.
But at any rate, that's why specifically I asked him if he would be agreeable to the March 25th date, and so at any rate, at least I heard him confirm that would be a workable.
Well, and just as another point for me was, if a person's been out there 40 times with neighbors, with court, with what went on the first time around, there's a problem. And in listening to the testimony and Mr. Castleman saying, well, nobody's contacted me and everything, I truly, it is sort of personal, but if I was, sitting here, it's almost is him trying to be evasive of actually facing somebody or getting somebody to
His
give
credibility
him.
on that issue was very low in your regard?
Very.
I think one of the things that would support Ken's motion was that the fact that the county had offered to use their program to abate this situation, and he hasn't taken advantage of that, which would not cost him anything.
Doesn't allow him to keep the vehicles.
Well, it does. He has to get rid of them somewhere. I mean, that's going to have to happen regardless of what time frame you give him. So,
I know one of the witnesses said, well, it's his treasures. Any one of us, we have things that we treasure. When I look at the pictures and the vehicles, I don't see him taking care of them as his treasures. And any of us, if we had vehicles that, whether they were historic or in first-class condition, we would store them indoors or we would store them in a secured area. And I sort of stand by, 30 days from today, because I honestly think within a week he could make the plans and then the following week have it moved. I mean, I don't see where it's a problem.
I understand where you're coming from, Ken, as far as the frustration and the time and all that. On the other hand, I think the court's seen fit to give him till 3/25. I don't know that, he's either going to comply or he's not. But I would be inclined to make our date a little bit earlier than that, so code enforcement has an opportunity to verify that he's complied and show up at the criminal hearing and maybe keep him from getting penalized on top of it.
Mickey, any comment? Okay, well,
That's the motion.
you have a motion, and there was a second. There's been no additional motions, so
And
after any...
if I just may point out, it may be a little more than 30 days, and I'll tell you why. After you do your motion here, Mr. Castleman's heard this, but we'll have to prepare a formal order and serve the order upon him. So it would actually be 30 days from the service of the order upon him. And I know he's been evasive, so in the event Mr. Castleman doesn't accept the order, we will have a process server serve the order upon him. So it will take a couple of days to get an order, get it signed, and get it served upon him.
So if we assume a week, then we're out kind
Well,
of...
if 30 days from date of service of the order would be a little bit longer, but it'd be 30 days from the date of service. So once he gets served with it, he'll have 30 days.
So I'll amend it.
I don't think you need to. I think what Scott's saying is a practical matter. The 30-day clock doesn't start until the service is...
Service of the order.
Yeah, and your motion would remain exactly as it was if your objective was to expedite that process. Nikki, were you going to say something? No? Okay. If no other discussion, then we'll move the question. All those in favor of the motion as presented by Ken and I, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Oh, okay, then we'll have to roll call it. Kathy?
Mr. Sevison? Yes. Mr. Moss?
No.
Mr. Gray? Yes. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Crabb?
Absent.
Absent. Mr. Brentnall?
Yes.
Mr. Denio?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 5-1, and Kathy, you can proceed with the order. That being the last item on today's agenda, we'll call this hearing to a close. Thank you all for attending.
Savor